For this stretch, you want to find some type of surface that you can rest your foot on top of. Now that foot is going to have the knee that's on the floor, and then you're going to bring the other leg out in front of you. And this is the starting position. What you want to do now, there's two main ways that you can really further the stretch. One is lean your body forward, so you're kind of lunging into this front leg. The other is tucking the tailbone underneath you. So you can see how just me tucking will really further that stretch on the front of the thigh here. So now I'm really getting a good stretch here. And the further, the higher the surface back here, the more of a stretch you'll get to. So you can imagine how if I'm here, I'm going to get a bigger stretch than if my leg was a little bit lower. So adjust the positioning of the height of the surface, how far you lunge forward, how much you tuck your tailbone, and all three of those factors will really determine how much of a stretch you get on the front of this hip here. You want to avoid arching the back as you do this exercise. For the stretch, you're going to begin on your side. Bring the leg on top of you, up. Bring it up towards your chest. That'll kind of get this hip to be a little rounded, the back to round here. And now with the opposite hand, you're going to reach towards the back leg. So you're keeping this arm held onto the leg here so it avoids falling out. So you're holding this position. Now you're going to pull this leg back so that your heel comes towards your butt, but also look at my left knee. It's going to move towards the back wall. That's going to get a good stretch on the front of my left hip here. So this hip is going to have a stretch on the front of the thigh, and this stretch I may feel a little bit on the back. And now what you're going to do is rotate open towards the ceiling, and that should make a little of each stretch more intensive, and you may also feel a stretch in your mid-back. Your mid-back is opening up in this position, and you want to rotate open. For this exercise, you're going to begin on your hands and knees, and then you're going to spread your legs as far as you feel comfortable. I use a yoga mat here just to pad my knees. And then from here, what you're going to do is rock back. Rocking back will get a stretch on the groin muscles. So my muscles on the inside of my thigh here will be stretched out. Go as far as you need to feel the stretch. I already feel the stretch here. But if you feel like you need to go further, you can go all the way back towards your butt touching the back of your heels. And then just hang out in this position. Make sure that you're getting the stretch in the groin. Don't round the back. That's actually going to lose the stretch. So make sure to keep the back in this relatively neutral position. Just hold that position, or you can rock back and forth. For the stretch, what you're going to do is get in this half kneeling position and focus on driving the elbow of the foot that's on the floor here in front of you. So you're going to drive the elbow down towards that heel, and ideally this will get the maximum stretch on this left hip. So I'm going into hip flexion on this left hip. You may feel a stretch on the front of the opposite hip, but the goal here is really to drive, and if you can't get there, that's fine. Work within your tolerance. So slowly lower yourself until you can get down further and further. And you may be collapsing this knee in, but the goal is to keep the knee in front of the foot. So make sure that this knee doesn't collapse in. That's going to stretch the hip in a different position. I want to keep this knee out and then drive down to get the stretch in the back of this hip. It's a very deep hip stretch for this exercise. For this exercise, you're going to bring one leg over and on the opposite leg. So just like this, and you're going to drop your leg in. So this leg is going to pull this hip into internal rotation here. But you want to avoid the body rotating. Keep your body against the floor still. It's okay if your low back comes off a little bit, but make sure your mid-back, your shoulders, everything else stays on the floor. And that way you can get that stretch, maybe on the outer thigh, outer hip area, or maybe you're getting it deep inside that hip. Whatever is your limitation is going to be where you feel the stretch. Hold this position, make sure your body doesn't move, and then come on off. For this stretch, you're going to begin on your hands and knees, and you're going to bring one leg over the other. So just the shin is going to cross over onto the other side. Now, what you're going to think about is two things. You're going to lean back and out to the side. So both of these motions will really get that stretch into this deep hip region. So you're going to sink into this position, hold for as long as prescribed, and then you can come on out. And if this is bothering your knee, you can always change the angle, so you can straighten this out a little bit. It'll take a little stress off of your knee. But if you feel up for it, cross that leg and really get that stretch in the back of the hip here. For this stretch, what you want to do is first lift one leg in front of you, and then with the leg that's in front of you, you're going to cross it over so that your shin is almost perpendicular to your thigh bone, kind of like this. Now what you want to do, and if your knee hurts you, you can bend this less. It's going to take less that torque away from the knee. But if it's fine, then keep that shin up. And what you're going to focus on is driving down and bringing your body towards the floor. Ideally, you can get your forearms onto the floor here. And you should feel a stretch in the back of the left hip. You can avoid from rotating open towards this leg. If you want to challenge yourself, you can rotate towards that same leg, and that'll further that stretch. So make sure to work within your tolerance. You can get lower or rotate further towards that leg to make that stretch a bit more aggressive.